Lord, what is death? Is death the end? And I think this segment this morning is essential to our spiritual welfare and essential to our spiritual journey. So here's a greater question, I think. Here's the real question. What does Jesus think about death? Pastor, not what you think, but can you help me understand what Jesus thinks about death? You heard me last week talk about Lazarus, the friend of Jesus, his sister Martha and Mary, and how Mary was the only one, I believe, was the only one that understood, because she stayed at the feet of Jesus when he spoke, and she listened with the intent of understanding, and she understood he's headed to Calvary. He's headed towards his own death. He has his own mortality in view. She takes that oil, she cracks the top of the vial, and she pours it all out on Jesus and anoints him, takes her own hair and wipes his feet. Jesus is headed to that place that we will all eventually end up at. Here's something different when you think about Jesus. He has inside information people don't. Be with me today, Lord. He's not working on Wall Street. But Jesus has inside information that you need, that I need, to be able to live in this world. And so for Jesus, the question about death and destiny related to two things. I want you to hear this today. Jesus' position on death and our destiny after death boils down to two things. Are you a believer or an unbeliever? And therein is where the answer lies. Is death the end? Is that it? Where are you at in your life? I can bear this out to you. I'll only show you two passages. You read it in our responsive reading this morning. Matthew 25, verses 41 and 45. Listen to the words of Jesus here as he talks and as he shares. In Matthew 25 and verse 41, then he will also say to those on his left, these are unbelievers. If you happen to be on the left side with Jesus, you're on the wrong side, okay? You need to get on to the right. So then he will say to those on his left, depart from me. He calls them accursed ones, into eternal fire, which has been prepared for the devil and his angels. Those who do not believe are headed. Their destiny after death is to hell. That was the place made and prepared, not for human beings, but for Satan and his fallen demons, his fallen angels. It was not meant for humanity. But if you are an unbeliever, listen, look up at me. Everybody look up at me. Don't look down. I want everybody looking up. Only you and God know where you're at spiritually. You can fool everybody by showing up at church. But I got news for you. You will never fool God. And there's a day coming when your spiritual state will be undressed. Listen to verse 46, rather, not 45, but verse 46. These will go away into eternal punishment, Jesus says, those on the left. But the righteous into eternal life. One of two places. Either you are a believer and you're headed to heaven, or you are an unbeliever. And here's the news. You are headed straight to hell. Death is not the end. I'll prove that in a moment. Here's what death is. It's separation. Stay with me this morning. Death is simply separation of the soul and the spirit from our physical bodies. It is simply separation. If you are an unbeliever, death is separation of your soul and your spirit from the physical body and from God. I need help this morning. The half-brother of Jesus, James, in chapter 1, verse 17, he put it like this: God is light. If you die as an unbeliever and you are separated from your soul and your spirit and your body, and you are separated from God who is light, what's left but darkness? Darkness. James also said, let me read it to you. Every good thing given and every perfect gift comes from up above, coming down from the Father of lights. God is light, with whom there is no variation or shifting shadow. You are either in the light or you are in the dark. But the thing in between is, James says, every good thing and every perfect gift comes from above. It comes from God. If you are an unbeliever and your soul and your spirit are separated from your body, and you are separated from God, and God is the light, and you end up in the darkness, not only are you in the darkness, separated from God, but James says you are separated from the good gifts that God gives. I need to tell you, death is not the end. But unbelievers will have willingly volunteered to separate themselves from the light of God and the good gifts of God. You don't want that. You don't want that. Here's what darkness and separated from God looks like. It's the depravation of the good things of God. You're no longer in a position. See, we take these things for granted in this physical world. We wake up every day. I got on my phone, I got this to do, I got that to do. You got your planner in your phone. You got your schedule. You're getting a text message, so I'm going to take this out, add this in. We got all our day planned out. All the week planned out. All the month planned out. I know what date I'm going fishing. I know when I'm going on vacation. You just don't know when you're about to depart this world. Mess up all your plans. But if you end up in a state as an unbeliever of separation from God, you have separated yourself from the light, you have entered into the darkness, and it is in that separation from God and His light and the good gifts that God gives that the torment comes. So all of a sudden, what I didn't think I needed, what I didn't think was important, what wasn't essential, now I realize I'm lost. That's torment. That's terror. Let me illustrate it like this. I don't have slides for this, but you can find it in Luke 16, verses 19 through 31. In the story in Luke 16, verses 19 through 34, Jesus tells the story of another guy. This is another guy called Lazarus. Tells the story of another person by the name of Lazarus. He tells the story of Lazarus being a poor beggar who would beg even from the rich man in this parable. And he would want even the crumbs, the simple breadcrumbs, or whatever would fall off the table that the dogs couldn't get to first. He would try to get any crumbs he could to survive. But the rich man was living large, eating steak every day, fresh baked bread, none of that day-old stuff. You know the stuff you buy at Kroger's is day-old, right? We done settled. We've settled. Yes. No, the rich man wanted that fresh baked bread. Lazarus, the poor man, dies. Finds himself being taken by the angels. They pick him up with his frail body. It was the body that the dogs used to lick at his wounds. And the angels pick him up at his death, take him to heaven, and place him in the bosom that Jesus said, into the bosom of Abraham. He was in good shape. He was in better hands than Allstate. The rich man dies. He wakes up in another location. He can see Lazarus on the other side. He sees Lazarus in the bosom of God, and he's resting, and he's comfortable, and he's getting the benefits of the good gifts of God. But I'm over here with all these people who don't believe. And I'm I'm separated from the light. I'm separated from God. I'm separated from my life. I'm separated from my wealth. He cries out to God and says, listen, will you let Lazarus come over here and just take his finger, dip it in the water, and give me just a sip? Just touch my tongue. The Lord tells him, no, I can't do that. Can't do that. There's a vast chasm between you and Lazarus. You can't cross. He can't cross. You are where you are. You are where you chose to be. Oh no, you don't want that. Look back at John 11, verse 14. I want to read it again. I'm only going to read the middle part, okay? Lazarus, he's speaking plainly now. He's no longer talking about sleep. But Lazarus is dead, and I'm glad. How are you glad, Jesus, at the death of your best friend? These scriptures say that Jesus loved Lazarus, and Lazarus loved Jesus. But Jesus intentionally waits 4 days and lets Lazarus die. Then decides to go to Bethany. He's dead. And I'm glad. Lazarus was a believer. This was the man who spent time with Jesus. This is the man and his family, his sisters, that Jesus would spend time with. He knew them. They knew him. The poor man we spoke about a moment ago, who struggled every day, trying to make it every day, just enough to be able to survive, found out that in heaven, I get fed up there. In heaven, I'm not worried about a thermostat at the house or electric bill at the end of the month. In heaven, everything is just comfortable. Everything is all right. Got news for you. Heaven won't just be walking down the streets of gold. You're going to probably have some stuff to do in heaven. But it won't be the labor. It won't be the toil. It won't be the curse of sin where you have to work. That curse is gone. You are liberated in death, liberated into life. You are liberated into the light and the presence of God, and the burden of sin has been set aside. Not anymore. Not anymore. Not anymore. In death, Jesus called it sleep. No wonder they were confused. Well, Lord, listen, let's don't go back to Bethany because there's trouble down there. It's too close to Jerusalem. They're trying to get rid of you. Just don't go back there. You said we're going to wait a while? Good. They're confused. And then Jesus says in verse 14, he just tells them clearly, just tells them plainly, he's not asleep, guys. He's dead. But in this context, death is rest. You go to sleep at night, right? Some of us do. Sleep, it lasts about how long for you? Some of us, I ain't getting about 4 hours past it. Some of you can get 8 hours. Some of you somebody have to wake you up. You might be getting 10. But it's temporary. You lay down, you get up. At some point, the rest period is over and you get up. It's temporary. Listen to the thought of a king. David, the king of Israel, put it like this. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'm not going to fear. I'm not going to fear evil or anything that man can do to me. Death is not, in the context of a believer, to be feared. It's not the end. It might even be restful. It might even be comfortable. It is for certain temporary. If you push me, if you press me, death, I believe, is a passageway into the presence of God. Death is an opportunity to go from this physical world into a spiritual realm, and it's the portal that you enter into that spiritual realm. Most of us who come to know Christ, you've already entered that spiritual realm in the here and now. But what will life be when you enter into the presence of God? Listen to what Paul said. This is how he felt about death. 2 Corinthians 5:8 says, we are of good courage. Can you hear that in Jesus' voice? He's dead. I'm glad. Paul said, we are of good courage. And I say and prefer rather to be absent from the body and to be present with the Lord. I'm serving, I'm working, I'm preaching, I'm teaching, I'm laying my life down, I'm helping others to see and understand, I'm sharing the gospel. People are getting saved. But one day, I desire to be in God's presence. I would rather be there than here, Paul would say. Look back in John 11. Look at verse 11 with me. The writer simply says, this he said, and after he had said to them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep. But look what Jesus told him. He's asleep now. He's dead. But I go. I go that I may awaken him out of his sleep. I'm going. I'm telling you, Jesus had insider information. Jesus knows that Lazarus not only is dying, but now he's passed. He knows that he's gone. But Jesus knows the mind of God. He knows what's in store. He has a divine appointment in Bethany with the ability to raise the dead. And it's for a reason. It's for a purpose. Look at the latter part of verse 15. So that you may believe. That's why. So that you may believe. That's why. He died. I'm glad, because what I'm about to do is to strengthen your faith. What I'm going to do is open up everybody's eyes. And they're going to see the power of God. They're going to experience the glory of God. They're going to witness that which only God can do. We talked about it a little bit last week. By the time you get into chapter 12 of the Gospel of John, they're at Simon the leper's house. Used to be a leper. You got Jesus sitting at the table. You got Lazarus sitting at the table. You got a man that Jesus healed from leprosy sitting at the table. You got Martha in there cooking, and she's not complaining. Mary still doing her thing, sitting at the feet of Jesus. And everybody in town is outside Simon the leper's house. John says they're not there for Jesus. You go on and you read later on in chapter 12. They're not there for Jesus. They want to talk to Lazarus. They want to see the man who once was dead, but now is alive. I want to get out of this today. I want to ask you guys something. What do the people in your family, in your neighborhood, on your job, what resurrected power do they see in your life? Do they see the power of God in your life? Can they tell you've been born again? Do they know? Do they understand something supernatural, something phenomenal, something life-changing has happened to you? Don't tell folk I'm going to church because it's Sunday. Here's something I'll ask you to do. Stay home. Be with me today, Lord. And I'm not here because it's Sunday. I'm here because I heard his call. I'm here because he saved me. I'm here because he washed me. I'm here because he forgave me. I'm here because I experienced the love of God. And I want to share that with everybody I can. I'm here to worship. Miss Leslie, you guys took us to that place this morning. You took us to the throne of God, kid. David, you guys took us to the throne of God. I don't want to do church. I want to worship. I want to have fellowship, build good, healthy relationships with the people of God, and let the light of God shine. Has anything that God has done in your life helped someone else? Have you gotten past yourself yet? Started helping others? When you've been born again, you can't hold this. Jeremiah said it's like fire. Fire shut up in my bones. Can't keep it, can't hold it. Javier, you got to tell it. Can't hold this. Yeah, we were all born in our sins, shaped in iniquity. Paul said in Ephesians 2, we all followed the course of this world and the prince of the power of the air. But thanks be to God, he set us free. I'm not following this world anymore. I'm not following the things of the flesh anymore. I'm not seeking after the pride of life or the lust of the flesh. I'm seeking Jesus. I'm looking for him. And there's not going to be anybody that comes to know me that won't know what Jesus has done for me. It's not my problem what they do with it after that. But I know one day we will stand before God and we will give an account. If you've been born again, you're headed to the light. You're headed to the arms of God. If you are an unbeliever, you are headed to a horrible, terrible place that you have no idea what it's like. But the only thing for certain is you won't like it. And that's the only thing for certain.